Welcome to a journey like no other, an unforgettable cruise through the iron gates of the Danube River. As we glide gently between towering mountains and steep cliffs, we invite you to slow down, listen, and let the story of this ancient river unfold. The Danube River is Europe's second longest river, flowing nearly 2,900 kilometers through 10 countries, from the Black Forests of Germany to the Black Sea. But here, along the natural border between Serbia and Romania, the river reaches its most dramatic and awe inspiring form, the Iron Gates. Known in Serbian as Djerdapska Klezura and in Romanian as Portile de Fier, the Iron Gates is a series of gorges and ravines stretching over 130 kilometers. The Danube is forced to narrow, bend, deepen, and twist as it cuts through the Carpathian Mountains to the north and the Balkan Mountains to the south. The name Iron Gates suggests strength and resistance, a place not easily passed. For millennia, this gorge has challenged travelers, engineers, armies, and explorers. Today, it invites us not to conquer it, but to witness it. The opening scene, entering the gorge. As our riverboat enters the first gorge, look to either side. Limestone cliffs rise sharply from the water, some reaching heights of over 300 meters. The stillness of the Danube here is deceptive. Beneath the surface lies a powerful current shaped by time and terrain. This is the beginning of Djerdap National Park, Serbia's largest and most biologically diverse protected area. This park is home to golden eagles, black storks, wolves, lynx, and more than 1,000 species of plants. It also preserves cultural relics spanning from Neolithic times to the Roman Empire. The natural beauty is matched only by the richness of the past. Look closely at the rock faces. They're not just geological formations, they're ancient pages in a book of history. The Cebalus, the Watcher on the Cliffs. As we continue along the Romanian side of the river, your eyes will be drawn to a truly astonishing sight, the rock sculpture of the Cebalus. Standing 43 meters high and 31 meters wide, this is the largest stone sculpture in Europe. It portrays the face of Decebalus, the last king of Dacia, who ruled from 87 to 106 AD. He became a national hero in Romania for his fierce resistance against the Roman Empire, especially against the campaigns of Emperor Trajan. This modern sculpture was commissioned not by the government, but by a private individual, Joseph Constantin Dragan, a Romanian businessman and historian. Inspired by patriotism and a deep admiration for Dacian history, Dragan hired a team of sculptors who worked for 10 years to complete the piece in 2004. Carved into a sheer rock face, the Cebalus' stern expression faces west toward the Roman heartland, as if still guarding the border and staring down his ancient enemy. Directly across the river stands a tabula Traiana, Trajan's inscription that we passed earlier in the journey. The visual symbolism is unmistakable, a 2,000-year-old conversation in stone between conqueror and defender. It's a powerful contrast. One side of the river immortalizes the strength of Roman conquest, while the other exalts the pride of native resistance. Mrkonia Monastery, a beacon by the river. Just below the sculpture, almost at water level, you'll notice a charming white structure with red tile roofs. Mrkonia Monastery. Though small in size, it holds deep historical and spiritual meaning. Originally established in the 15th century, the monastery once served as a lookout and refuge. The name Mrkonia comes from a term meaning dark water or hidden place, a fitting description for its secluded location. The original monastery was destroyed in the 1960s during the construction of the Iron Gates hydroelectric dam. What you see today is a rebuilt structure completed on the same site after the flooding of the original was unavoidable. It stands as a tribute to resilience of both faith and architecture. Photographers love this spot, and for good reason. With Decebalus looming above and the monastery nestled by the river, it's one of the most iconic images from the Iron Gates.
A river alive with legends.
As we continue our cruise eastward, the landscape begins to soften slightly, but the sense of mystery grows. This stretch of the Danube is rich with legend and folklore, much of it passed down through generations living along these river banks. Some legends speak of ghosts haunting the river caves, spirits of drowned villagers or long lost soldiers. Others tell of buried Roman treasure, sealed in vaults beneath the hillsides, waiting to be discovered. There are tales of ancient bridges swallowed by floods and of songs that echo through the cliffs on stormy nights. Whether grounded in truth or wrapped in myth, these stories add texture to the rugged beauty we see outside our windows. The Iron Gates is not just a place of stone and water, it's a living archive of memory and imagination. Look closely at the hillsides. Tucked among the trees or hidden behind rocky outcrops are crumbling staircases, half buried foundations, and collapsed towers. Many of these remnants are believed to be watchtowers, Roman outposts, or medieval way stations, evidence of how important this corridor has been throughout history. Footprints of empires. The Romans were not the only ones to pass through the Iron Gates. This natural corridor was used by Huns, Goths, Byzantines, Slavs, and later the Ottoman Turks. Each left behind some trace, be it in fortifications, abandoned roads, or even village names with ancient linguistic roots. On the Serbian side, not far from where we are now, you might glimpse the ruins of Fetislam Fortress. Though smaller than Baba Vida or Belgrade Fortress, Fetislam played a strategic role in controlling access through the gorge during Ottoman times. Its weathered walls still peer out over the Danube like sleepy sentinels. Further down the river lies Kladovo, once a Roman settlement called Zanes, and later a key point of commerce under Ottoman rule. Today, it's a quiet Serbian town, but its layered history lingers in the cobbled streets and quiet plazas. On the Romanian side, the town of Orshova sits along a peaceful bay. The original town was relocated during the hydroelectric project in the 1970s. The modern version of Orshova is a planned settlement, but echoes of the old town live on in photographs, memories, and a few salvaged buildings relocated piece by piece. The human cost of power. We've now entered a stretch of the Danube where the landscape tells two stories, one ancient, one modern. The cliffs still echo the struggles of past empires, but the riverbanks also reveal the tremendous changes brought by the Iron Gates hydroelectric project in the 20th century. In the late 1960s, Romania and Yugoslavia, now Serbia, undertook a joint effort to dam the Danube, regulate its flow, and generate hydroelectric power. The result was the Iron Gates I dam, completed in 1972. A second dam, Iron Gates II, followed in 1984. These projects helped tame one of Europe's most unpredictable river segments and brought renewable energy to millions. But the gains came at a cost. Entire villages were flooded. More than 20,000 people were relocated from both sides of the river. Cemeteries were moved, churches, schools, homes, and roads vanished beneath the rising waters. Families were divided. Some resettled in newly built towns, others emigrated to distant cities. Ancient archaeological sites, Roman ruins, and even prehistoric settlements were submerged. Teams of archaeologists raced against time in the 1960s and 70s to document what they could. But much was lost forever. Locks and infrastructure, what you don't see here. Unlike some parts of the Danube where you pass through dramatic locks, this portion of your journey through the Iron Gates does not include traveling through any lock chambers. That's because your ship is likely cruising downstream from a segment already past the two major dam systems. But if your route had started earlier upstream, you would have encountered the Iron Gates 1 lock, one of the largest of its kind in Europe, allowing commercial and passenger vessels to bypass the dam and continue along the river's deepened course. Though out of sight, the infrastructure that supports your voyage is immense. Submerged channels have been dredged, riverbanks fortified, and navigational systems modernized. The serene beauty of your cruise is made possible by decades of engineering ingenuity. Still, amid this modern achievement, the Danube remains unpredictable. Fog can blanket the river at sunrise, sudden winds whip through the gorge, and currents shift like ancient moods, reminding us that this river, though tamed in part, still has a will of its own. The Kazan Gorges, Nature's Theater. Now we approach the most breathtaking section of the Iron Gates, the Kazan Gorges. The word Kazan translates to cauldron, and once you see the setting, the name will make perfect sense. These gorges are the narrowest and deepest part of the entire Danube River. Here, the river funnels tightly between towering limestone cliffs with barely enough space for two riverboats to pass side by side. In the Great Kazan, the river narrows to just 140 meters, a dramatic pinch between rock walls that rise up to 400 meters on either side. The water plunges to more than 90 meters deep, making this one of the most profound river depths in Europe. That's nearly 300 feet of fast-moving water beneath your ship. As the boat glides through this natural corridor, you'll notice how sound changes. The echo of the engines, the hush of voices, the call of birds bouncing off the walls like a stone skipping across water. It's no exaggeration to call this part of the river a cathedral of stone. A sculptus islands. Above you, the cliffs are sheer and bright, their surfaces carved by wind and rain over countless millennia. If the light is right, you may notice subtle layers in the rock, clues to the ancient seas that once covered this region long before humans walked its shores. Watch for birds of prey, golden eagles, peregrine falcons, and buzzards, soaring effortlessly overhead. The thermals that rise through the gorge provide perfect conditions for gliding. With a bit of luck and sharp eyes, you might even spot a black stork, an elusive and protected species that nests high in these cliffs. Also hidden in the gorge are a number of small caves, some barely visible from the water. These natural formations have served various roles over the centuries: shelters, granaries, monasteries, and even hideouts for resistance fighters during the Ottoman and later World War II periods. It's hard to believe that before the river was dredged, the Kazan Gorges were among the most dangerous stretches of the Danube. Ships were often forced to unload cargo, and towboats had to pull vessels through with ropes and poles. Wrecks were common, and many vessels were lost to the rocks. Today, modern navigation has made this journey safe and serene, but that sense of danger, of awe, still lingers in the air. Decibellus, the Watcher on the Cliffs. As we emerge from the Great Kazan Gorge, your attention will be drawn to one of the most striking landmarks along the Danube, the rock sculpture of Decibellus. Carved directly into a limestone cliff on the Romanian side of the river, this towering 43-meter-high sculpture is the largest stone carving in all of Europe. It depicts the face of Decebalus, the last king of Dacia, who ruled from 87 to 106 AD. Decebalus is remembered for his fierce resistance against the Roman Empire, particularly against Emperor Trajan. He was a strategist, warrior, and symbol of independence for the ancient Dacians, whose territory covered much of what is today Romania. Though Decebalus ultimately lost to Trajan, his legacy endured, and nearly 2,000 years later, a modern admirer brought his image back to life. A modern monument to an ancient hero. This enormous sculpture wasn't commissioned by a government or public institution. It was the vision of Iosif Constantin Dragan, a Romanian historian and businessman who believed Romania needed a bold monument to its ancient roots. Dragan hired a team of 12 sculptors, and the project took 10 years from 1994 to 2004. The team worked using explosives, jackhammers, and climbing gear to shape the hard cliff face. It was a challenging and expensive project, both technically and politically, but the result is stunning. The face of Decebalus gazes westward, directly across the river from the Tabula Traiana, the Roman inscription we discussed earlier. In a way, these two monuments, one ancient, one modern, stand in eternal dialogue, facing each other across the centuries. One speaks of imperial conquest, the other of heroic resistance. Beneath the sculpture is a Latin inscription that reads, Decebalus Rex Dragan Fecit, King Decebalus, made by Dragan. Whether viewed as patriotic art, personal obsession, or grand gesture, the Decebalus sculpture has become one of the most photographed and recognizable symbols of the Iron Gates region. The cliff that watches. There's something quietly powerful. The cliff that watches. There's something quietly powerful about this carved face in the rock, silent, solemn, and ever watchful. As your ship passes below, it's easy to imagine the ancient king still guarding his homeland, reminding us that history is not just what we read in books, it's also what we see etched into the very land. Raconia Monastery, a beacon by the river. Just below the towering face of Decebalus lies the Merconia Monastery, tucked along the river bank like a quiet whisper against the roar of history. Its white walls and red roof form a modest but striking silhouette, standing peacefully between the monumental cliff carvings and the ever-flowing Danube. It's a beloved stop for photographs, but it is more than just a scenic point. Raconia is a symbol of resilience and spiritual endurance. The name Raconia comes from an old word meaning dark place or secluded waters, a fitting description for this tranquil setting surrounded by towering rocks and shaded waters. It is believed that a small religious outpost stood here as early as the 15th century, serving monks who lived in isolation and prayer. However, the original monastery was submerged in the 1970s due to the rising waters caused by the construction of the Iron Gates hydroelectric dam. The current structure is a modern reconstruction built in the 1990s on the same site, a gesture of remembrance and spiritual restoration. Today, the monastery is a functioning place of worship. This location by the river, near the boundary between Romania and Serbia makes it a beacon of peace and continuity, echoing the way that faith and tradition endure even when landscapes change. A river alive with legends. As our cruise continues, you'll notice how the geography slowly unwinds. The steep gorges give way to rolling hills, and the river begins to broaden again. But the stories don't fade, they just change their tone. The Iron Gates are rich with legends. Some are based in history, others in folklore. People speak of Roman treasure hidden in mountain caves, of ghosts, of drowned villages, of hermits who lived in the cliffs, and of mysterious disappearances that still puzzle locals today. The Danube here is not just a natural boundary or transportation route, it is a river of myth. A place where the imagination clings to the stone as much as the moss does. Look closely, and you might spot ancient stairways carved into the hillsides, or the crumbling remains of watchtowers once used to monitor movement along the river. These relics, weathered and often barely visible, are testaments to centuries of human presence: Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, and modern. The Iron Gates continue to inspire wonder, not only for their grandeur, but for the stories that rise from the water and echo off the cliffs. Footprints in stone. As we continue eastward, the past rises from the landscape like a whisper, quiet yet impossible to ignore. On the Serbian side, you may glimpse the ruins of the Fetislam fortress near the town of Kladovo. Originally built by the Ottoman Turks in the 16th century, it was later expanded by the Austrians. Though no longer intact, its remains mark centuries of strategic military presence along the Danube. On the Romanian side, the town of Orshava comes into view. What you see now is a modern city, but the original Orshava, older, more compact, and historically significant, was entirely flooded during the dam project of the 1970s. The town was relocated and rebuilt with little more than memories and foundations left beneath the water. This theme of erasure and renewal runs throughout the Iron Gates. As the river was reshaped by human hands, much of the ancient world disappeared beneath the surface. Archaeologists and historians rushed to document as much as they could before the waters rose. Artifacts, ruins, and remnants of settlements. Some treasures were moved to museums. Others were lost forever. And yet, despite what has vanished, the Iron Gates remain a place rich with meaning. The very cliffs seem to hold memory. Every bend in the river feels like a page turned in an epic saga. Nature and civilization in balance. The Iron Gates region also speaks to a more recent story, that of finding balance between progress and preservation. The Iron Gates hydroelectric dam, completed in the 1970s, was one of the largest and most ambitious infrastructure projects in Eastern Europe. It was a joint endeavor between Romania and Yugoslavia, designed to harness the power of the Danube for electricity and safer navigation. While the dam provided energy and tamed a dangerous section of river, it also submerged entire ecosystems, towns, and cultural sites. Today, the challenge is to honor what was lost while celebrating what remains and ensuring that the Iron Gates continues to be protected for future generations. That's why places like Djerdap National Park on the Serbian side and other conservation zones on the Romanian side are so important. They protect biodiversity, preserve heritage, and offer visitors like you a chance to understand this place not just as scenery, but as a living corridor of history and nature. The river widens now, the pace slows, and the cliffs begin to recede gently into rolling hills. But before we part from this gorge, we have one final chapter to reflect upon. A closing chapter of light and stone. As we near the end of our journey through the Iron Gates, the transformation is unmistakable. The towering cliffs begin to recede, giving way to lower hills and softer curves. The river, once compressed and commanding, now relaxes into a broad expanse stretching toward its future course. The sunlight dances differently here. Without the narrow gorge to cast shadows, the light opens up, illuminating layers of limestone, revealing textures of green and gray, and softening the surface of the Danube. The echo of our passage fades, replaced by the open hush of a broader river plain. But what we leave behind is not just geography, it's memory, monument, and myth. The Iron Gates are more than a physical passage, it is a threshold in time, a gallery of civilization, and a natural archive of Europe's deep past. More than a gorge. This place has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Roman roads, Ottoman forts, Austro Hungarian maps, and modern nation states. It has seen soldiers march, engineers toil, and villagers rebuild. It has been both a barrier and a bridge, a feared obstacle and a treasured route. It's easy to think of rivers as only water and movement, but the Danube, and especially here in the Iron Gates, is also stillness and memory. It is the language of the land, carved in cliffs and whispered by currents. As you look back upriver, perhaps you can feel the stories still traveling behind us of Decebalus and Trajan, of submerged villages, of watchful monasteries and soaring eagles. They are not gone. They are simply now part of you, carried forward like the river itself. Thank you for joining us. We thank you for being a part of this remarkable voyage through one of Europe's most dramatic and meaningful landscapes. Whether this was your first glimpse of the Iron Gates or a return to a familiar place, we hope this experience has enriched your understanding of the Danube, its cultures, and its natural power. As we sail into gentler waters, may you carry with you a sense of wonder, a deeper connection to the past, and a renewed appreciation for the enduring dialogue between nature and civilization. From the limestone cliffs to the whispering currents, from Roman tablets to modern monuments, the Iron Gates have told their story and now is part of yours.